Hello students, in the previous class we had discussed about characteristics of a chemical reaction and we started with the next topic, that was types of chemical reaction, where I told you that basically we are going to study about 4 kinds of chemical reactions over here, namely combination reaction, decomposition reaction, single displacement reaction and double displacement or double decomposition reaction. Now, if you remember, in the previous class we had already discussed about combination reactions, which are also known as direct combination or synthesis reaction. We defined it as a reaction where 2 or more than 2 reactants combine together in order to form a single product. Let's move on to the next type of reaction, that is decomposition reaction. It is a reaction where we will observe just opposite case of combination reaction. As you can see the definition over here itself, a reaction in which single reactant splits into 2 or more simpler products. That means the number of reactants will only be 1, whereas the number of products will be 2 or more than 2. As you can see the general formula over here, if a reactant was AB, then it will break down in order to give 2 different products, that is A and B, or maybe even more than that. Now, based on how these reactions occur, we can divide them into 3 types, namely thermal decomposition, electrolytic decomposition and photolytic decomposition. When this reaction is carried out with the help of heat, it is known as thermal decomposition. Students, pay attention to one thing. Though this reaction is being brought about by heat, but it will not recombine on cooling. That means when we will put the temperature down, or if the temperature goes down, the reaction is not going to move into the reverse direction. That is, again we are not going to get the reactant back from the products. So what we can say here is that decomposition reaction is brought about by heat without any recombination on cooling. That means once this reaction has taken place because of heat, now if we reverse the condition, that means if we are cooling it, we will not observe the reaction to be reversed. That is, we will not observe the formation of reactants back. Let's move further. Ferrous sulfate on heating breaks down in order to provide ferric oxide, sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide. Please note one thing, ferrous sulfate crystals are normally found in green color in nature and their exact formula is FeSO4.7H2O. That means 7 here is the water of crystallization. However, when we heat it, it changes to FeSO4, since on heating the water particles from here evaporate. So we are left with the salt, that is FeSO4. Now the color of FeSO4 is white, and when we keep on heating it further, then this reaction occurs and sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide gases will be released. We can identify that the gas being released is sulfur dioxide or sulfur trioxide by its smell. It smells like burning sulfur, or we can say it has a pungent smell like burning sulfur. Let's move further. Thermal decomposition of metal compounds are based on reactivity of metals. compounds of reactive metals are more stable and hence do not decompose easily. See students, we have already studied about reactivity series of metals, and we know that the metals at the top of the reactivity series like sodium, potassium are highly reactive in nature. On the contrary, the metals at the bottom of the reactivity series like gold, silver or platinum are less reactive or have very low reactivity. Now what happens when these metals indulge in compound formation? The compounds formed by the active metals is much stable than compounds formed by inactive metals, or rather less active metals. So what we observe is that the compounds which are formed by highly active metals are very stable to heat, whereas the compounds which are formed by low reactive metals are less stable to heat because of its stability. The compounds formed by highly reactive metals are highly stable and hence they are thermally stable, that is, they do not decompose easily on heating. For reference, you can check out tables on page number 25 and 26 of your Selena textbook, which shows decomposition of metal hydroxides, carbonates, bicarbonates and nitrates and how they vary on thermal exposure. Let's move on to the next type of decomposition reaction, which is electrolytic decomposition reaction, also known as electrolysis. Now, the decomposition reaction which is brought about with the help of electricity is known as electrolytic decomposition reaction. When a small amount of electrolyte is added in water and electricity is passed through it, we observe release of hydrogen and oxygen gases, respectively on cathode and anode. Let's move on to the next type of decomposition reaction, which is photolytic decomposition reaction or photolysis. When the decomposition reaction is carried out with the help of sunlight, it is known as photolytic decomposition reaction or photolysis. As you can observe in the example over here, silver chloride on exposure to sunlight breaks down to give silver and chlorine. Students, do you know decomposition reaction occurs in our body also? Yes, the digestion process is an example of decomposition reaction. Starch decomposed to give glucose and sugar, protein decomposed to give amino acids, fats and oil decomposed to give fatty acids. Starch in presence of enzymes breaks down into glucose, which on further addition to oxygen molecules, or you can say which on further oxidation forms carbon dioxide, water and provides us energy. Normally, how do we carry out this thermal decomposition process in labs? I'm going to tell you over here. We take small amount of salt in a test tube and holding the test tube with a test tube holder, we heat it over a burner and observe the changes that takes place. Now, when we take lead nitrate and heat it, the crystals melt first and on further heating we observe evolution of a brown colored gas, which is nitrogen dioxide, and oxygen is also evolved, we will observe that a yellow solid, that is lead monoxide, is left behind in the test tube. What will happen if we take zinc carbonate in a test tube and heat it? Now, in this experiment, at the top of the test tube, a cork is fitted which has a single hole in which we introduce a delivery tube whose other end is submerged in a solution of lime water. Now, when we heat zinc carbonate, it breaks down to produce zinc oxide and a colorless gas is released, which when passed into lime water turns it milky. Students, this is the test for presence of carbon dioxide gas. Let's move on to the next experiment, where we took copper sulfate crystals. As we heat these blue colored copper sulfate crystals, we observe that they turn colorless. This colorless compound is anhydrous copper sulfate, and the water molecules move out in form of water vapor. Further, if we add water again in this anhydrous copper sulfate, we will observe that the solution turns blue again as the copper sulfate molecules absorb water of crystallization. This is the reason it has been mentioned here that this is reversible reaction, since the initial compound can be obtained back by changing physical conditions. So, as you all observed that on addition of water molecules, again we got back a reactant. So what we can say is that this reaction is reversible reaction. Students, pay attention over here. All the reversible reactions are represented with this sign. That is a half arrow moving forward and half arrow moving backwards. Students, our next topic is thermal dissociation. Going by the definition, a simultaneous reversible decomposition reaction brought about only by heat is known as thermal dissociation. If you remember, while we were discussing about the definition of thermal decomposition reactions, we said that on reversing the conditions, these reactions will not move in backward direction. That is, the process of formation of reactants from the products will not occur. However, what are we observing in thermal dissociation? That when we take any compound and heat it, it breaks down into two different compounds which on cooling again combine together to generate the previous compound. As you can see in this example, we have taken ammonium chloride which on heating broke down to give us ammonia and hydrogen chloride gas. However, on cooling it, what are we observing? That it gets converted back into ammonium chloride. This process is known as thermal dissociation. Students, let's move on to the next type of reaction, that is displacement reaction. Going by the definition, a reaction in which a more active element displaces a less active element from its salt solution is known as displacement reaction. I'll just tell you this thing with an example. Suppose a student whose name is X is the topper of class 9th. Now, we assume that a new student named Y takes admission in the class, who works harder and scores higher percentage than the student X. Obviously, what do we know? That student Y is going to come first in the class this time. Now what has happened over here? Student Y has removed student X from the first position and taken its place. And why that has happened? Because student Y worked harder than student X. In the same way, in the displacement reaction, what do we observe? That certain elements which are more reactive displace the less reactive elements from their salt and take its place. As you can see over here, we had a salt AB, and because C is more reactive than B, so what has it done? It has taken the place of B, whereas B moves out. That is, this C went on over here and this B got removed off. So what we had? AC plus B. Let's have a look at an example. Copper sulfate on reaction with zinc gives zinc sulfate and copper particles settle at the bottom. As you can observe, the color changes also. Copper sulfate is blue in color. As soon as zinc is added in it, the solution turns colorless, which indicates the formation of zinc sulfate. Also, reddish brown particles are seen at the bottom of the container, which shows that copper particles are being formed over there. Why does this happen? Because zinc is more reactive than copper, so it displaces copper from its salt and takes its place. We have one more example over here where we will observe the displacement of anions. As you can see over here, we have taken potassium iodide, and chlorine, which is more reactive than iodine, displaces iodine from potassium iodide and takes its place. Let's have a look at the activity series of metals and non-metals. You have already studied this in previous class. It has been written in decreasing order, where potassium has the highest reactivity, then sodium, then calcium, and platinum has the lowest reactivity. Similarly, in non-metals, fluorine has the highest reactivity, whereas iodine has the lowest reactivity. Students, please note that we have taken only certain elements into consideration and not all the elements in the periodic table.